Thanks for joining us this fine morning in IIT Madras. Our chief guest, Dr. Obijiofor Aginam, UNESCO Director, MGIEP, esteemed guests, respected faculty, industrial partners, government representatives, dear colleagues, friends, students, a very warm welcome to the XR Symposium on the Global South at IIT Madras. It's a privilege to host you at the Experiential Technology Innovation Center, XTIC, India's first dedicated research and product innovation hub for AR, VR, MR, and haptics. This symposium is framed around a powerful idea: frugal tech innovations transforming hardware, software, and solutions for XR in the Global South. The goal is very clear. The objective is very clear: to co-create XR technologies that are affordable, frugal, human-centric, scalable for education, healthcare, skilling, mobility, and public services across emerging economies. My co-organizer, Professor Steve LaValle, is going to elaborate on why this theme is chosen and why this is significant right now. I would like to briefly take a few moments to reflect on the XTIC's mission and highlight some of our recent achievements over the past year. XTIC was conceived as an innovation corridor for supporting cutting-edge work in XR, bringing academia, industry, and startups together. As an IOE, Institute of Eminence Research Center at IIT Madras, it serves as a global hub connecting engineering, medicine, psychology, and the arts together to shape the future of experiential technologies. Over the last year, XTIC has deepened its role as a national and global reference point for XR by building partnership, nurturing startups, and supporting transnational research that takes lab prototype into real-world deployments. Some of them you will see in the display today at the outside of this auditorium. The ecosystem is further strengthened by CAVE Consortium, which brings together XR and haptics, startups, and industries to co-develop solutions and digital twins for complex sectors like manufacturing. XTIC's mission of setting India as a XR corridor has progressed significantly in the last 1 year. I'm glad to announce that XTIC has expanded its outreach and visibility through the last year event. It's called the XR Summit at IIT Madras. That summit showcased demos, recognized innovative XR startups with XR Startup Awards, and celebrated creative excellence in immersive storytelling, including the XTIC Award 2024 for Innovation presented to Sri A.R. Rahman for his pioneering VR film, The Lee Mask. I'm glad to announce that XTIC has also continued to act as a knowledge partner for several PSUs and government organizations, including ISRO, SAIL, IOCL, HAL, to transform skill training in their organizations. This collaboration illustrates how Indian XR research can directly impact heavy industries, workforce skilling, and safety across the country and the broader global south. XTIC has also worked with MNCs such as Meta, Cube, Dolby, Qualcomm, Samsung, Ericsson, and others. Also with Accenture, Infosys, and TCS. XTIC launched the AAP Academic Associates Program last year to nurture XR capacity in 20 institutes across India, supporting them from setting up XR clubs to establishing XR Innovation and Entrepreneurship Centers. Through AAP, XTIC has already enabled several member institutes to start the XR clubs and labs and faculty development programs and hands-on training workshops to build sustainable XR ecosystems on their campuses. An NPTEL course on Foundations of Virtual Reality, jointly offered by University of Oulu and IIT Madras Professors Steve LaValle, Anna LaValle, and myself, attracted over 8,600 learners from across India. Only about 3% of the students successfully cleared the final examination, and I am very glad to announce that several of those top performers are here with us, and you will get to meet them during the lunch break or tea breaks. Please do take the opportunity to meet them and then interact with them. The same course is offered to IIT Madras also, but with much more rigorous training, including the course projects. I am glad to announce that some of the projects done by these course students at IIT Madras are displayed as posters outside the auditorium. Please take moments to go through this. I hope it gives you a glimpse of what the future of experiential technology is and then research happenings at XTIC. Our volunteers are in this XTIC are our research scholars. So you can see them with the XTIC t-shirts, and please feel free to interact with them to know the research works at IIT Madras. Yeah, jury of eminent scientists will be evaluating these posters today, and top 3 best posters will be selected and then awarded today. We have also set up XR awards in IIT Madras for best thesis in XR in the name of LaValle family with generous funding from LaValle. We have also added a new course called Game Engineering and Design, focusing on the foundations of gaming, maybe the first in IITs. We hope to bring the creative gaming community closer to our students who are good at logical and creative critical thinking. The MIPS committee, Metaverse India Policy and Standards Committee of XTIC, has published 4 standards as part of ITU, International Telecommunication Union of Geneva. So MIPS is also continuing to add more standards in the coming years. The MIPS committee also has studied the metaverse policy of other countries such as Finland, EU, South Korea, Japan, and China. They are looking at from the perspective of adapting the best practices in other countries' policy into India's metaverse policy. I am glad to announce that they have finalized a report titled A Perspective on the Finnish Metaverse Policy that will be released today as part of this event later today. One of the technologies that XTIC has recently developed, known as ITAD, Interactive Touch Active Display, is also displayed today. It allows users to physically feel on-screen images using controlled electro-adhesion on their fingertips. Deployed in settings such as the Visvesvaraya Industrial Technology Museum in Bangalore, it showcases XTIC's ability in combining haptics with interactive displays to create richer and more experiential experiences. I encourage you to experience ITAD and provide feedback. We will launch few other verticals very shortly. So as part of the CAVE consortium, AutoCAVE, one of the verticals and startups and industries interested in XR for mobility industries will be inaugurated today as part of our today's event, particularly as a panel discussion. Apart from the AutoCAVE, there are 4 other panel discussions in 2 parallel sessions. There are 12 sessions scheduled for around the theme of the Global South. I request all the speakers to do 2 things. First, please make sure that your speech is relevant to the global south as much as possible, because this is the need of the hour. Right? So please strictly stick to the time given, because the schedule is very, very tightly packed, and let everybody get their chance. As we look ahead, XTIC envisions a future where experiential technologies are not luxuries but enablers of equality. The achievements of the past year are only the beginning. The real progress will be measured by the collaborations, pilots, and policies that emerge from gatherings like this today. At the end of today, we hope to come up with some declarations, some committees, and some future projects. A special word of gratitude to our sponsors for making this XR Symposium possible, Meta and Qualcomm. Their partnership and belief in the mission are deeply appreciated and have been instrumental in bringing this community together today. With that, on behalf of IIT Madras and XTIC, may today's discussion, demos, and deliberations help us collectively shape an XR ecosystem that is frugal, human-centric, and truly global, starting with and then led by the Global South. Thank you so much. Thank you. I request my co-organizer, Dr. Professor Kaushik Mitra, to add few words to the welcome speech.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to welcome all of you. So as the theme of today is XR for the Global South, which basically means affordable XR, or XR for the masses. Is it required? No, not required. Yeah. So we'll look at what needs to be done very, very briefly. So we know that XR is transforming many, many areas. So here are some of them. Education, for example. So here we can, basically it can revolutionize education completely. So for example, when we were in school, we were only reading text. But now we have visual as well as auditory and touch. All these senses can be used for teaching. For example, we can take a machine and we can dissect it completely, and the working principles can be explained. And similarly for biology, chemistry, all these areas. So it will definitely revolutionize education, healthcare also. For example, it can be used for training doctors with touch sensors and all. They can feel how they're cutting through the tissues and all. And similarly, entertainment with 360-degree cameras, 360-degree views, and audio. And as well as maybe we'll have other sensors also soon, touch obviously, and maybe smell also will come. So it's completely revolutionizing all the various application areas. But the thing is, one of the main problem is that the cost is very high. So it's still kind of elite. So for example, if we take the high end, which is Apple Vision Pro, it's quite expensive. And even we have the consumer standard also, MetaQuest, HTC Vive. But still what we need is XR for the masses. Like it should be much more cheaper so that it can reach the global south. So, and with that goal, we have to analyze what is happening, like why it is so high, and what can we do to reduce the cost. So for example, if you look at the top XR devices, so one of the main reasons are these high resolution displays, then sensor, it even uses LiDAR sensors, which are very costly. And of course, processors are being used. So this is one of the reasons why we are not able to go to the masses. So what can we do to reduce the cost, and how can we make it more affordable? That is where we need to do more innovations. So what we need to look at, for example, reducing the sensor count. So for example, currently, I think 10 to 20 sensors are being used. That also visual sensor for the top-end XR devices. So how can we reduce the number of sensors? Of course, it will require to replace sensors with computations, algorithms. And we can also look at novel kind of sensors. For example, lensless because it's very thin form factor and all, and it's also very inexpensive. Or we can look at event cameras which can track very efficiently. It only looks at the changes. Or, for example, low light IR sensors. I mean, these are some examples of novel visual sensors that we can think of. Similarly, we can think of other sensors also, auditory sensors and all. And of course, we need computations also. So of course, we know that deep learning is the one which is the best, but it also consumes a lot of memory as well as compute power. So how can we reduce? How can we make it more efficient? One thing is to use combination of traditional and deep learning. The other thing is now we know transformer is the best performing models. So can we do distillation and do the same thing in CNN? So basically coming up with more efficient models as well as using traditional technique and using hybrid methods to reduce it. So these are some of the innovations that we need to do. And of course, that requires efforts from industry as well as institutes. So a lot of collaboration is needed. And one of the future things that we are planning as part of XTIC is to have hackathons where we can open it up to students and ask them to come up with ideas for this kind of affordable XR. And they can come up with their ideas. They can also look at application stack, and we can open that also and ask them to create new applications for XR. And of course, the other thing is to have open source platform, which will drive further innovations. So that is our overall goal, to make XR accessible, affordable, and inclusive for everyone, everywhere. And of course, that is not possible if you just do alone. So it has to be a consortium of government, industry, startup, institute, and that is what this XTIC is about. And hopefully we can all come together and do this dream. Okay, thank you. I invite Professor LaValle to come.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Steve LaValle. Thank you very much for coming to this event. I'll offer some of my perspective, but it builds very nicely on what Mani and Kaushik have just said. So my wife, Anna, who really wanted to be here but was unfortunately unable to, is one of the co-organizers of this, and I want to say together we were part of the biggest hype cycle that virtual reality had ever seen. I was an early founder and chief scientist of Oculus VR up until we sold it to Facebook for $3 billion in 2014. Later, I was vice president of VR, AR, and MR in Huawei. I also advised many startups, venture capitalists, and done plenty of angel investing. I was involved in many tech events and trade shows, mostly in the US, but also some in Europe and around in Asia. I have also researched the scientific foundations of XR, using XR as the broad term, of course, to include AR, VR, MR, and any other Rs that come along, for nearly a decade. You can find my free online book and research papers about that. From these experiences, I've observed a pattern. The large companies have driven development over the past decade by viewing XR as the next platform that will drive their growth. They also have a fear of being left behind if they don't do such a thing, if they don't invest in it. But each one views it in its own special way based on what its company is built upon and what it's based upon. Social media companies view XR as the next way to interact with people, to socialize, of course. If you're an operating system company or PC-oriented company, computing-oriented company, they view it as the next operating system or next windowing system. Chip companies view it as driving demand for more powerful chips. Telecom companies view it as driving demand for more bandwidth and lower latency. Everyone gets excited for a reason that corresponds very much to their core business. Smartphone makers view it as driving demand for more powerful hardware in phones, especially the cameras, right? So game companies view it as a way to expand their software libraries called game engines to adapt them into this setting, and so on. And the smaller companies and startups try to fit themselves into the pockets and struggle in the limited ecosystem of closed but rapidly evolving platforms. Many have simply given up over the past decade or have pivoted to something else. There is a steady growth, of course, but it's nowhere near the level of excitement like it was in 2014 or 15. As each of the big players push the development, the focus has tended to be XR devices that are built with the most advanced technological components. Very impressive. The goals seem to be to demonstrate the technological prowess of their engineers through their achievements. They strive to outshine each other. At the same time, most devices remain heavy, bulky, cumbersome to operate. Setups and calibrations remain difficult. Firmware is constantly changing. Platforms require registrations and special memberships. Public access to the devices is closed, and few people can afford them. Most XR devices cost from half a lakh to several lakhs, or even more. This is fine for some company budgets, but not for normal people. When considering the Global South, especially in the development of this NPTEL course that Anna, Mani, and I have done, we arrived at the notion of frugal VR, or frugal XR. We imagine low-cost devices that do not require the cutting-edge innovations in computing hardware, cameras, wireless chips, displays, waveguides, and so on. We envision devices that leverage a deep understanding of human perception and physiology, so that effective interactions and immersive experiences can be delivered using common consumer hardware of today. We want open platforms that are easy to set up and modify and build content upon. You might have heard of things like Samsung Gear VR, or Google Cardboard, or Google Daydream, and even think those several years ago were a kind of failure because we don't see them so much or don't hear people talking about them as much anymore. But that largely happened because relative to today, the smartphones were much more poor. The graphics were not as good, head tracking was poor, lack of content, there was some coming along, but not as much as today, a lack of effective interaction methods, poor optical calibration, and so on. But today, the average person, even in India, has a phone with much better specs than people were using back then. Tracking has improved, calibration is easier and more accurate. This is optical calibration as well as sensor calibration. Content is improving, displays are much better, even for the ordinary people. We want these smartphones anyway that have these capabilities. So in the context of the NPTEL course, we built upon the kind of devices that people have. And we've developed new powerful interaction mechanisms called twisters that are fun and efficient to use and learn, and they do not require extra controllers or high-end hardware. So in this symposium, we ask, what can we do here to stimulate the growth of this kind of ecosystem so that a grassroots or bottom-up movement will arise? How do we provide a counterbalance to the higher-end closed ecosystem headset development? Nowadays, using your existing smartphone and buying a lens case for about 1,000 rupees, you can actually get a decent experience, believe it or not, much better than your memory of a decade ago might be if you tried these things a while ago. This is a great starting point to grow a global ecosystem led by the Global South and steered by its needs and values. And of course, we can ask how large players in the ecosystem, including big companies and governments, can play along and help us to achieve this. Here today, you should ask not what this frugal XR ecosystem can do for you, but what you can do to help build this XR system, the frugal XR system. Thank you.
We extend our sincere gratitude to all these distinguished leaders for being with us today and giving us and guiding us with their invaluable insights as we commence this symposium. As we move into the inaugural session of this XR Symposium, we are honored to welcome our chief guest, a global leader in shaping the future of education, peace, and sustainable development. It is my privilege to invite Dr. Aginam, Director of UNESCO's Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development, to deliver the inaugural address titled The Future of Peace, Reimagining Education in the Global South. A distinguished scholar and international policy expert, his leadership has significantly influenced the global initiatives in education innovation, peace building, health governance, including key contributions to the revision of World Health Organization's international health regulations. May I now request Dr. Aginam to please join us on stage for the inaugural address.
Good morning, colleagues, friends. I'm very, very privileged and excited to be amongst you this morning. When I received an invitation to be here 2 months ago, about a month ago, sorry, I was wondering when I saw the title of the symposium, what should we be doing in the midst of computer scientists, engineers, and mathematicians? And I read, through the themes of the symposium, the sub-themes, and there were two things that stood out. The first is Global South. The second is education. Okay, and I had a rethink about why UNESCO MGIEP, Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace, should be here, to interact, with these very sharp minds, innovators, tech companies, in order to improve education. So I want to thank Mani. I want to call him Mani. I want to simplify things. Mani and his team, and Steve, for putting this together. This is actually, really, really the kind of thinking, the kind of practice that we should be, getting together for the world of the 21st century. Just a word about UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. It is a UNESCO Category 1 research institute. As the name indicates, our work is on education for peace and sustainable development. But what does peace mean? Okay. Sometimes, people have very narrow conception of peace. Oh, there's war and conflict, and that's it. So, we are at peace. But we go much more than that, because peace doesn't just mean absence of wars and conflicts. Okay. There are a lot of things that education, in the space of education, can do. Innovators and educators and teachers, can do to nurture some of the key competencies that will lead to, peaceful societies, and that's really what we do. So, in the last 10 years of the first 10 years of the life of the institute, the focus has been on broadly what we call social and emotional learning. Okay, and these are, the teaching and the mainstreaming, the nurturing of key competencies, including things like compassion, empathy, mindfulness, critical thinking, in the educational systems, in the classrooms, in the educational ecosystem, in order to build a peaceful society. So the institute has actually, done some pioneering work on this. How to measure empathy using emerging technology, for instance. Okay, so climate change, biodiversity. How do you train young people in and outside the classroom, on things that actually, that constitute, some of the that deal with some of the uncertainties, the emotional uncertainties and the mental, uncertainties that they go through. So that's what the institute does. We are operating within the education sector of UNESCO, and UNESCO is a UN specialized agency that works on bringing education, science, and culture together, these three big themes. So in terms of the emerging technologies, that are reshaping our lives, we do know that all of humanity, okay, from, India to, down to the countries of the global south, and also the global north, we are at a pivotal moment, okay, in this fast evolving landscape of education, research, and learning. The very first thing that we talk about, generative AI, which basically is now transforming, reshaping the way that we teach, the way that we learn, the way that we conduct research, both in the classroom and outside. So what makes this quite distinct is the fact that if you look at previous technological innovations, they don't have the kind of agency that AI has, in terms of reshaping how teachers should teach, how educators should regulate, how, we should learn, in the classroom and then, and outside the classroom. How we process information, okay? How we create content. So all of these are fundamentally changing the contours of learning and education across societies, across domains. We've heard about, the perspectives that were shared, beautifully by our colleague on how to, make these things available in the, in the global south, including entertainment, music. Okay, these are areas where, these innovations actually can tap in, to improve, livelihoods. So the creative potential opens up new horizons for personalized learning experiences, adaptive educational resources, innovative research methodologies. These are all issues that require profound questions and interrogation, about, authenticity, originality, intellectual property issues, and the fundamental nature of human creativity. That's really the stage in which we are, in history. And so how can we extend, XR technologies to harness these technologies to advance well-being and sustain human flourishing? That's where we come in as UNESCO MGIEP. Well, whatever we want to do, we want to improve, keep improving, advancing well-being, and to sustain human flourishing in the way that we learn, in the way that teachers would teach, in the way that educators would regulate, these technologies. So there is a long list, of what UNESCO has done to address these questions. The first is the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, okay, which was adopted by 103 member states of UNESCO. And the second is artificial intelligence and education guidance for policymakers. Very, very important, because we have ministries of education and allied ministries, skills development and all of this, science and technology. So how do they actually, regulate, the ethical, contents of emerging artificial intelligence, AI technologies? The Global Education Monitoring Network that was released in 2023, focuses on technology in education as a tool, that actually touches on all our lives, okay, in different ways. The AI competency frameworks for students and teachers, again, 2024. Guidance on generative AI in education and research. So the key thing about all of this is that there are, if you look at these reports, very closely, and by the way, every country of the world, 103 countries are members of UNESCO, so they made inputs into all of this. So it's not just like, there's a UN agency, just turning out, resolutions. The key principles, there are about 3 or 4 of them on the human-machine interaction, okay, which we cannot run away from. That's the world that we live in. The first is that, human agency and oversight. Extremely important. AI should be a tool to complement, not replace human interaction, empathy, and guidance in the classroom. Okay? The second is ethics and regulation. Extremely important. How do we make sure that these emerging technologies are ethical and that they are inclusive? There's also a reference to the digital divide. It's not just between countries, okay? It's not just between global south and global north. Is within countries as well, okay? There was a roundtable we convened in Delhi, I think about 2 months ago, looking at education for peace in India, the emerging pathways. And there was this kind of, debate that came out during that roundtable. The fact that even in big cities, okay, like Delhi, for instance, or any other big city in the global south, there's also a divide, okay, a digital divide within cities. So we should address this, because these technologies should be inclusive, they should be accessible as much as possible. Then the appropriateness and evidence, okay, that come with these technologies. Skill development is really important. How do we use these technologies to maximize the development of skills? So for all of this, I think the reason why we are here is that there are 3 things we can do. At least, there are three skills and capacities we can bring to the table. The very first is, again, it has been alluded, to bring tech industry to the table. Okay, how do we bring technology, close to the table, and in order to have midwife some form of public-private partnership, and that's what it is really. The public, governments all over the world, and the private sector. They always cooperate, they always come together, it's happening in different ways on different things. But if you actually look at carefully what is happening, I want to use the analogy of marriage. That marriage between the public and private sector, there's always a bit of turbulence, okay? There's always some, how do we rebuild faith, okay, in these relationships, in these partnerships? How do we build trust so that both sectors can trust each other, trust one another much more, trust one another, in a way that reduces some of these tensions and discontents. So, like I said, it's something that is done in different ways. I think this institute, this center, is doing it very well. Mani has told us, giving examples, very concrete examples of how these tech industries can come together with education institutions, to innovate. But the key thing is that we need to build more trust. We need to, downplay some of the discontents, when you bring the public and private sectors together. UNESCO MGIEP can bring its convening authority as a UN agency, okay, as a UN institute, to bring the different, sectors and stakeholders together in the global south. Okay, for instance, the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, is very, very, very keen, always keen, on South-South cooperation. Okay, so it's a form of diplomacy. It's soft diplomacy. There's nothing very contentious about it. Okay, they're happy that they're showing leadership, to the countries of the global south. And there are examples of what we've done with them, okay? So this could be, another skill that we can bring to the table. So we can use, deploy our convening authority as a UN agency, to midwife, some of these, South-South cooperative arrangements. Of course, with IIT Madras at the center of it. I look forward to having that discussion with, some of you after this. Related to the last point is that we can also deploy our networks, extensive networks in the global south, to nourish these South-South cooperative frameworks. UNESCO has a membership of 193 countries, and each of these countries have what is called the National Commission for UNESCO. Okay, we have access to all of that. We can actually, deploy those networks, to work on these partnerships. Mainstream education must prioritize future-ready skills to enable learners to thrive in an increasingly digital, interconnected, and unpredictable world. So there's a lot of these connections, between societies and countries, but also some of these connections, can lead to unpredictable outcomes. So we need to, the core priorities, including advanced digital literacy, AI collaboration, critical thinking, systems thinking, environmental literacy, and emotional resilience, are things that we work on, to help students navigate young learners, youth, these fast-evolving technologies. These skills will enable young people to address the anxieties and uncertainties resulting from complex global challenges, including climate change, wars, conflicts, how to process information on the internet, for instance. So together with these competencies, build young people, not just to, for jobs. Of course, jobs are the most important thing. When you leave college or university, you want to get gainful employment, but also lifelong learning in a rapidly shifting landscape. Lifelong learning. Okay, the key thing about social and emotional learning, some of these competencies of compassion, empathy, mindfulness, critical thinking, is that when you actually have these skills and practice them, it lasts a lifelong. Is a lifelong experience for you. It helps you to navigate some of the complexities, in the workplace, in other relationships, in the communities and other places that we operate. So, in conclusion, we can play a pivotal role in driving this transformation by helping countries integrate these skills into their national curricula and teacher training systems. We can provide the UNESCO global standards, open educational resources, and policy-making guidance, ensuring that even low-resource nations have access to high-quality digital and sustainability education. That's the point that our colleague has made, how these things are very expensive. How can we actually bring the cost down and make them accessible, to those that need them the most? So through research, international collaboration, and pilot innovation programs, we can support governments, research institutes like IIT Madras, to test new models on future focused education. And I would like to, to end by reminding us again that the future of, these technologies in education is not predetermined. It will be shaped by the choices that we make today. Choices about the design, choices about the implementation, choices about regulation. And in doing this, we do have so many, courses that are hosted on our website. If you look at the MGIEP website and, go to Framer Space, you see some of those courses. So some of them are being revised, and we're open to, to having a discussion today with, the innovators, to help us to, bring some of the designs, and some of the, some videos and designs, to improve them, to make them, agile and responsive to some of the emerging challenges and uncertainties that face learners, in different regions. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to, having further discussion with these innovators. By the way, I saw a lot of very young people. I spoke with them briefly, and I was very, very impressed, okay, that there were about four young ladies I was talking to, and they told me they came from a college that is outside Chennai. And I was very impressed when I asked them what they were studying and when they will finish their studies. Because we have to invest in young people, okay? They are the leaders of today, not tomorrow. They are the leaders of today. And what MGIEP does, a big chunk of our programs is focused on young people globally. So I look forward to having these discussions with them to see how we can all be, partners, in this journey. Thank you very much.
We thank Dr. Obijiofor Aginam for his insightful and thought-provoking address. His vision for reimagining education and shaping a peaceful, sustainable future for the Global South has added depth and perspective to this symposium. Please join me in thanking him once again with a warm round of applause.